In the last couple of years, Duel has changed from just being a one-off Seven Wonders two-player interpretation to an all-out genre in which other games by other publishers are coming up with their own distilled two-player concepts of bigger, broader, and more time-intensive games out there. So today we're going to try to get down to the bottom of what are the strengths of three of the most popular Duel games out there and which of them, if any, is my favorite. Let's get started. Starting us out, let's talk about the OG here. And I've talked a lot about Seven Wonders Duel in the past in a bunch of different forums, but the thing that I like most about it is that it's like a funhouse mirror interpretation of its older brother, right? I mean, you have the military and science, and you get resources, and you have to have trade with your partner, you have the wonders and everything. All the elements are there, but it doesn't really play anything like Seven Wonders itself. What's really cool is that it's like a three-way tug of war with different victory conditions, and you're having to constantly manage one another. And best of all, it did something really interesting with its drafting, setting up three different sort of central tableaus that people draft from with hidden cards that get revealed as you go about it in order to come up with an actually satisfying way of handling two-player drafting, which I really didn't like the two-player variant on Seven Wonders, so this thing is actually really surprising. The thing that I think are its strengths are that it is very robust. It feels like a big game with layered systems. There's a lot of variety throughout it, and it has a really stellar expansion. Some people aren't the biggest fans of it, but I think Pantheon adds a lot and gives a little bit more of the interesting strategy, the kind of forcing your opponent to do things that you don't necessarily want to do yourself by being one singular instance in which you don't have to take a card from the draft if you are accessing any of the Pantheon itself. And that's cool. It also adds a ton more artwork and some interesting variety if you played it to death like myself. If there's something that I would say is a drawback to this game, it's that it is, I think, the most complicated, the most strategically and informationally involved of all of these. This is the one that a good player is definitely going to win, and this is the one that you need the most knowledge of what's to come in order to successfully execute on something, and that means that you need more experience. So it is the most involved of any of the three games. Now, Emotep the Duel. Now, this is an interesting beast because I like Emotep, and I think Emotep already scaled really well from 2 to 4 players, but this one becomes like a 15-minute game that is so distilled into just one core mechanism of having this 3x3 grid accessing the shipping lanes of these boats. And it thematically interprets the elements of Emotep, but it feels like a completely different game. The way you score points may have thematic similarities, but they're really different. The game itself plays different. It has the same level of tension, but this is probably the least interpretive of the mechanics of the base game, in my opinion. But I think that it is a really strong contender. Though, if I were to say that it had any weaknesses, it's that it almost has no theme whatsoever. This is the most abstract strategy of the three of any of these things. It is fast, it is tight, it is aggressive, and so satisfying when you pull off something, in spite of it being a really narrow field in which you can operate in. You can lay some real nasty traps and kind of force your opponent's hand in a lot of ways that feels really cool. The replayability of it isn't necessarily in that it's dynamic, it's that you have a couple different ways you can arrange your scoring areas, and it plays so fast that it leaves you wanting to play again. This is something that you could easily play 3 times in the time that it takes to play Seven Wonders Duel. The only thing that I'm kind of disappointed by is that Emotep doesn't have the awesome wooden blocks of the original game. They were so rad, and they added an awesome dimensionality dementiality? Sure, dementiality to the original game, and I think that's where this one suffers the most in comparison to the original. But otherwise, the best thing about this game is that it is 1,000% tension. It strips away all the fluff of any other game that you've ever experienced and just gets you right in the middle of that knife fight in a phone booth. Now, Duelosaur Island is interesting because it's the one that feels the most loyal to the original. Yeah, Seven Wonders Duel had a funhouse mirror effect of the original game, and then Emotep had the thematic elements and little hints and nods, but kind of felt like a different game. This one feels like, how do we take all the elements from Dinosaur Island and stick it into this two-player, more concise game? And you know what? I think it's better for it. One of my concerns with Dinosaur Island anytime that I play it is that I'm going to have to suffer through so much just fluff. And that prolongs the game and makes it less interesting. This one, I think, gets to the quick much better, and that's really cool. It does lose out on a couple systems that I do like about Dinosaur Island, but I can take those sacrifices if it means a better game. The element that I like the most about this is the different plot twists that apply to the dice as they're arranged, and the amazing I Split You Choose system. Again, an excellent version of drafting that I wouldn't normally anticipate from a two-player game, but it works really well here. And then all the other stuff. You get your beautiful hyper-colored dinosaurs, you add them to your park, you get visitors who come, maybe some people get eaten if you don't have your security up enough of a level. I do think that this is kind of the loosest of the games that I have here. It's not the most tense game because you're not really doing all that much that affects your opponent, unlike the other two games where every decision that you make will have a critical impact on the other. The thing that I don't really like about the game is that it feels overall strategically pretty limited. I mean, all the herbivores are all the same. All the small carnivores, all the large carnivores, they're pretty much exactly the same. They have the same overall resource costs. They have the same points and excitement and all that business. And so it feels like once you play this game enough that you are seeing the same game over and over again. There are little bits of differences here and there, and the time that it takes of only 30 minutes or so is much better than Dinosaur Island. So I think that there's a lot more replayability here, but of the three that are here, it's less tense and it's also a little bit more limited. So, final verdict is that I actually think all three of these games are better than their older siblings, and the only reason why I'd want to play Dinosaur Island, Seven Wonders, or Emotep over these games is if I needed to accommodate a larger player count. Otherwise, I think they are all more strategic, tighter, and take a lot less time getting to the core essence, the best aspects of those games, all that much faster, and that equates to more fun. I like big games, but I think all three of the original games deserved and are improved upon in these. Now, of all three, which all three of these I really like and I'm going to be keeping in my collection, I still think Seven Wonders Duel is the best of them because it feels like the most complete and dynamic game in and of itself. The other two feel like games that I would want to squeeze in when I can't really play a big game. You know what I mean? More so Emotep than Duelosaur Island, which feels pretty robust. But Seven Wonders Duel, even though it takes a short amount of time, 30 to 45 minutes to play, it has a tension and core and layered systems that feel rewarding and completely engaging, and it feels like a different game every time that you play because you have alternate paths that you're going on, and every single decision you make is interesting and has ramifications not just for yourself and for your opponents. And that's why I think of the three, Seven Wonders Duel is my favorite. But that's not necessarily true of everyone, so I want to know which of the three is your favorite, and what are your favorite two-player games, whether they're restricted to two-player or otherwise. Let us know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Jack for the Cardboard Herald. If you enjoyed this video, we have all kinds of other reviews, interviews, and recommendations via writing, podcasts, and video here on our channel and website cardboardherald.com. Our content is audience supported, so if you want to show your support, please visit our Patreon. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Cardboard Herald.